Wyoming's best adventure starts in Wind River Country, located in western Wyoming, just beyond Yellowstone National Park and the Grand Teton Mountains. Wind River Country is the place to go to get away from the crowds, unplug, unwind, and find room to roam. Wyoming's Wind River Country, Yellowstone's unique neighbor.
Welcome back to Wyoming's Wind River Country, Yellowstone's unique neighbor. Another fantastic episode. I'm Charene, the Adventure Queen. I have Helen Wilson with me as well. Helen, how are you?
I am great. How are you, Charene?
Doing well. I'm really excited about this episode because we could dive into the history and the fact that Wind River Country has got a lot of rich history in sustainability. The food scene here, as far as our local producers, is on fire. And I think that's really popular right now.
It is really popular, and what we've seen is popularity increasing in farmers markets, in people just wanting to get into local food, take that local food, maybe go hiking with it, go rock climbing. But what we're really seeing in the past few years is an increase in sustainability, an interest in sustainability, local food, more farmers, people who are not shopping at the grocery stores as much, but actually going into some of our local businesses and actually meeting the people who are producing this food. And it's been really exciting. People riding their bikes. I've seen people selling flowers off of their bikes. I was actually the manager of one of our local farmers markets for 3 years, and I got to work with the other farmers markets in the area where we have markets on the reservation and in Riverton and in DuBois and in Lander. So the whole community is just friendly, fun. Often in the summer, you can go on a Saturday, you can see people playing live local music. You can buy peaches, you can buy corn, you can buy vegetables, flowers, all of it. And not only is it about the local food, I think it's about the local food scene where you've got the music and you've got the people who really build the community. And I am aware that there's lots of communities who have these great food scenes. And it's been really fun to see that we are one of them. With our mountains, you've got the mountain views behind the farmers markets, and you can go and meet the animals that provide the food, whether that's cheese or whether it's meat or whatever your wish is. It's really neat to see how sustainable this community is. And it's one of the things that I think people are sometimes surprised by, but also excited by. And now we've got these farmers market stores in both Lander and Riverton, and walking into them and seeing that there's 80 plus producers who are providing to these is really incredible. And I know this podcast is coming out on Thanksgiving, which is the fourth Thursday of the month when it's released. And it's been really fun talking to people and finding out how they're able to provide an entire Thanksgiving meal from local food.
You've painted the best picture, Helen, and we're going to actually be able to talk to both of those markets that Helen just mentioned, Meadowlark and Fremont Local Market. Meadowlark is in Lander, Fremont Local Market is in Riverton. Do you think, Helen, being involved in not only your work with the local food scene and the farmers markets, but also your work with tourism in the state of Wyoming, Wind River Country, in my opinion, is one of the places leading the charge and in the sustainability, in the farmers markets, in providing that look into where your food comes from?
We've definitely got a lot of them. And I feel like I say this a lot, but one of the things that makes our area unique and special at Wind River Country is it is made up of lots of towns and cities and the Wind River Indian Reservation. And whether you're looking at DuBois, Hudson, Lander, Riverton, Shoshone, or the Wind River Indian Reservation, there's a local food scene at each. And just like the communities themselves, the diversity in the food scene is quite incredible. You can get smoked fish on the farmers market, in the farmers market on the reservation, and you can get vegetables and meat and all kinds of things. We also have something really unique in Wyoming called the Wyoming Food Freedom Act, where people are able to produce their food at home and then sell it at the farmers markets. And with our community, one thing I love is that you can go to these markets and you're not just buying from somebody, you know that person, you know that person's name, you know that person's kids, you know that person's dogs, and you're aware of their farm, and they're just part of the community. And the Wind River Visitors Council and all of the farmers, we really welcome people coming and experiencing that, because the intimate, friendly feel isn't something you get in higher populated areas of the country.
I'm looking forward to talking to Meadowlark Market and Fremont Local Market as well. So we'll be having the crew from both of those join the show here momentarily.
Great.
We're here at Meadowlark Market. I have Annelise and Bridget. Ladies, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Folks who are listening, we're in the back part of the kitchen at the Meadowlark Market. You guys not only are selling a lot of people's local goods, produce, and services, but you also do some stuff back here.
Yeah.
Bridget, I hear you're the lady in the kitchen.
I'm the kitchen intern. I've been here for about 3 months at this point. Yeah, we have a beautiful kitchen back here, which is awesome because it's a fully licensed commercial kitchen, and we rent it out to people so people can come in and use our kitchen. And so we have people who cater, we have people who just want to produce things. Like we had a lady with a food truck in here a few weeks ago, and they were making pizzas in our kitchen, which is awesome because it gives them a different space to work with and maybe makes things a little easier or more cost effective.
Fantastic. Are you guys ready to go out let us out into the real world here?
Yeah.
With all the customers out here.
Yeah.
So we're going to actually go into the Meadowlark Market here, and we're going to just talk a little bit about what always is interesting to me, Annelise, is the amount of things people make at home that you just wouldn't think. I see sauerkraut, I see kimchi, and folks are making this and then selling it at the market. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the really awesome thing about Wyoming is every state has a version of it, but we have the Wyoming Food Freedom Act. So it allows folks to produce things at home and then allows us as a designated agent to sell it here. So we've got raw creamed honey that has like things like turmeric or cinnamon or blueberries, elderberries. So you get a lot of the health benefits along with your raw honey, which is really cool. That's one of my favorites. We've also got shrub, which is a drinking vinegar. You can add it to tea, you can add it to mocktails, cocktails, any sort of thing that you're drinking, you can add it into, which is really cool. We've got fresh apple cider, apples grown and pressed, nothing added to them, all just outside of town. Oh my gosh, the goat cheese. The goat cheese in this town is absolutely insane. There's at least 4 or 5 producers who bring in goat products, and we get yogurt, we get milk, and then the cheese. The Chev in Lander is incredible. I can't truly pick a favorite. They're just the flavors from sweet to savory. There's a pecan maple syrup in right now, and then we've got a dill and chive. So it just, you can really find whatever you're looking here for. The other thing that we've got going on here is we do have a pretty good stock of beef and lamb and bison as well. So all of that has to be licensed coming in here, obviously, with that meat, but we do get a lot of good frozen meat, and then we also get frozen chickens and duck, which is quite special, I think.
Well, when we talk about folks visiting, it's right outside your front door is like the gateway to Yellowstone National Park and Grand Teton. And so, most of those folks are coming in the late spring into the early fall. And so you guys have different produce and goods at that time. Things always changing when it comes to supporting local producers because, to be honest, in the winter, there's just not as much of the produce side of things as there are in the summer.
We've actually tried to bolster the market as much as possible to have more than just produce because we know that it's going to be a lot less in the winter. We do have a few producers who will have fresh lettuce and microgreens going into the winter, so we won't be totally without, but just getting folks used to seeing like what else can I supplement or what can I add to my plate this winter just by coming here and then getting whatever else you can at another grocery store.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Annelise was just describing the market itself. Joanne, you have been here since the start. You're a board member as well. So obviously been a driving force in helping this thing get going. Tell us a little bit about the start of Meadowlark Market.
Yeah, so we opened March 1st of this year, but prior to that, it was probably a year in the making before we actually opened the doors. And I was at CWC for a while. I retired a couple years ago, but prior to my leaving the college, I was working with other people about discussing how we could open a brick and mortar store and going forward so we could provide access to fresh, healthy food year-round. And it just started really as a grassroots effort. Just those discussions led to connecting with other people who had the same vision and are real foodies. And so we eventually came together and formed a board. We are a chapter of Slow Food USA, which is actually started as an international organization in Italy a number of years ago, Slow Food International, and then there's Slow Food USA, and then we're a chapter of that, Slow Food Wind River. And we're the second one in the state.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, Slow Food in the Tetons. It's up in the Jackson area.
How many producers or people do you have that have goods here at the market? Do you have an approximate or?
I think we're around 80.
80 to 90.
Yeah.
And of course, not all of them are here at the same time, but yeah, we've got about 80 to 90.
We opened March 1st, but prior to that, we had 3 pop-up markets just to have a soft opening and introduce ourselves to the public. And those were very well received. The first one was in January, and I think we had 9 producers bring products in here. And then we had 2 more after that prior to opening in March. And every pop-up was bigger than the previous one. Yeah, more producers, more customers, and then people just started generating some excitement and
awesome,
coming into the market and seeing our space.
Great. Have you had some interesting visitors from out of the area this summer?
We have, yeah. We've had quite a few people come in, and it's been fun to connect with and talk to people about what's happening in their communities.
Yes.
Yeah, and seeing what they're doing.
What was the vibe? What was the vibe
really
you got?
Excited. They're really excited to see what we're doing here, and really a little bit surprised that we can have a market like this in the middle of Wyoming.
The middle of nowhere.
Think that's what it seems like to people coming from other places, but it's really amazing. And just being involved with the farmers market over the years, and with the college, I directed the Beginning Farmer program. Just how this momentum has engaged people into thinking about where their food comes from. And so it's happening in other parts of the country, but what we're doing here is, I think, is really impressive, because we can have producers come in and maybe they just have a few things they want to sell, but the fact that we're here gets them thinking about what else could I make, or things they've been wanting to do but just never had a place to sell them, or just limited to summer during the farmers market times.
Joanne, I need to do some shopping, so.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, of course. I won't keep you.
No, you're wonderful. It's been just so fantastic and great learning more about this local food movement and really supporting these local producers and knowing where our food comes from. I can't wait to see where this thing continues to go. I hope we get you guys on another podcast, okay?
Yeah, please stay in touch.
All right, we are now here at the Fremont Local Market as we talk about the sustainability and our producers and knowing where our food comes from. I am joined by Jack Schmidt. Jack is a man of many hats, but Jack, you helped start this market we're in right now, didn't you?
Yes, actually we did. The history of this market goes back 14, 15 years to CWC. The college that we have here has been a huge help. And Brad Tyndall, you got to give him a tip of the hat, because he's a huge local food advocate.
A big part of what we talk about, Jack, is the Food Freedom Act. For us folks in Wyoming, that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. That's what made it possible. The wonderful thing about Wyoming being an ag community, all ag communities really, we're always aware of our roots. And in food, the roots are very local. Wyoming legislature passed a law that said between the producer and the consumer, there's no licensing or regulation on food. That puts it the way it ought to be. Puts the responsibility on the consumer of making sure what he gets is good. So that's how that started.
Alma Law is joining us as well, and you may recognize Alma's voice from a previous podcast that we did, but Alma is also heavily involved in the local food scene, and he has always been supporting local producers. You actually went to New York and able to represent Wyoming, Alma. How cool is that?
And I told people all over they'd come to the incubator village and ask what we're doing from Wyoming. They go, Wyoming is really a thing then, huh?
What were some of the questions you got on people curious what we're doing here with ag and local producers?
that we're on the map, that we would have something to show up with. Here's the thing, like, they're like, so where are you from again? Wyoming. Miami? No, Wyoming. Miami? No, Wyoming. And so anything we did was fascinating, anything. And then we started talking about, what are you doing? So I bake sourdough, but I wasn't going to fly all the way here and try to sell you my sourdough. I sell it locally. I do sourdough classes in my house. I've done a few sourdough classes in kitchens around town. I'm learning a lot, and I'm learning nothing on YouTube. Usually if you need to fix your car, you need to bake a bread, or you need to follow a recipe, you go to YouTube. And I go to YouTube, and everything they do isn't how I do it. I do it a very old-fashioned, no-knead method. And so I'm learning as I go. The bread is teaching me how to work it.
How old is some? Didn't you have some really old
My
starter?
Old. Yeah, my starter, a lady in Montana 18 years ago, and she had buckets of sourdough at her feet, and she's making this batter and making these pancakes. And I just walk up, fascinated with food and drooling because I love sourdough. And I said, so this is your sourdough, right? How long have you had it? That's the question. And she said, well, it's from my husband's family. It comes from pre-Columbian Spain. It was smuggled in by the Basque shepherds. So that's how I said that's how I describe it. She gave it to me. I've had it for 17 years now. I've cooked a lot with it. I've turned it into quite a product. And then my sister-in-law finds this recipe for the no-knead bread because it uses whole wheat. Sourdough is great with a soft, fluffy, white, all-purpose flour. All the germ, all the bran's been removed. It just fluffs. It's gluten like crazy and goes for days, and you get a really nice fluff out of it, right? So you can slice it. It falls right off. You have these big, nice pieces of bread. And I love that. But I want whole wheat bread. I want whole grain bread. So my sister-in-law found this recipe where you can put whole wheat in it, and the sourdough can still rise with a whole wheat. So I adopted that recipe, and I've been manipulating it for a while. She never used home-milled whole wheat, so I'm even like trailblazing from there.
Wow.
I buy my wheat in Wyoming. I have buckets and buckets from people down the road, and I home mill my wheat berries, and I put it in this bucket for a week of sourdough, and it's my bread sourdough that, like, I don't go to a batter and take it back to a bread. I leave it as a bread sourdough that I add to and feed every week.
And what Alma's done with this bread has gone right back to the roots that is hundreds and hundreds of years old, where you mill with a stone in the water. You mill that wheat berry and make that into a flour.
So I post these pictures. Hey, I've got my bread at the market today. Come get my bread. I got, this new einkorn thing. Are you willing to try it? And my friends from New York, my friends from Salt Lake, my friends from Texas are saying, what? You're making einkorn bread, sourdough, whole wheat, home milled. Like, all of those words are blowing me away. That is like the huge trend that I'm reading about, that I've read about in all these little blog posts. And like, it's trending so hard right now. That's the healthiest way I could eat. And you're in Wyoming selling it to your neighbors.
So the bottom line of the whole thing is, on the tourism aspect, come to Wyoming. Learn this stuff, then go home and spread the word.
Yeah.
Can we take a little walk through the market? And I'd love to just pick out a few different items that, just showing the diversity too.
And it's also made possible, the Food Freedom Act was amended 2 years ago to say between the producer or his designated agent and the consumer. That made it legal for us to be the designated agent for that producer.
Educated.
For a while there, Consumer Health was telling us, no, it's got to be the producer standing there when it sells, that it says it's a one-to-one. So the legislature amended the act where it says a designated agent, which is what we are here. Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, there are a lot of things on the shelves out here. Everything from candles to candy to honey. What is that?
That is sourdough starter. So that you can come here and buy a sourdough start to take home and use.
And in this little bitty town, we got 3 coffee roasters.
What about these pickled goods? Canning seems to really be coming back. Is that true?
Yeah. It's a big part of who we are, but it's also a trend. So
These are retired teachers from Shoshone. Okay, they retired, they want to do something, and I can grow a cucumber pretty good. So they started all this, and it keeps them busy, it's added income, and everybody knows the pickle people.
A lot of candy. The freeze-dried candy is craze for sure.
So we get a lot of tourists in here, a lot of people coming through town, and we've talked about that. That's a big push, is to get people to stop, especially on the way to Yellowstone. There's thousands and thousands come to get a little local snack, and they like that. Of course, honey's big in this country. I think Fremont County is one of the bigger honey producers around.
Yep.
So we've got several honey producers.
The local thing is real gray. It's pretty vague, but maple syrup, for instance, there's not many maple trees in Wyoming. This maple guy John has a place in Wisconsin. Yeah, and that's where his family's up there. He goes up there and they make maple syrup all winter long out of his trees. Then he brings it. He lives in Jeffrey City, for crying out loud. Nobody lives in Jeffrey City. You know that. He brings his maple syrup over here, so we've got that local connection. We know who John is. If we get a sour bottle of maple syrup, which we never have, we know who to call.
I just hope that people continue to stop by, not only the local folks, but the tourists.
The demand is huge. It's just the accessibility. The competition, good Lord, how do you fight those big guys? But we're doing it.
Right.
And because of public support, we're still here.
Yep. Appreciate you guys, and I'm looking forward to our next episode of Wyoming's Wind River Country, Yellowstone's unique neighbor. Our next episode, we head to the beautiful town of Du Bois. I'm Charene Herrera. Thank you to Alma Law and Jack Schmidt. And again, this is Wyoming's Wind River Country, Yellowstone's unique neighbor.
Thanks for tuning in to Wyoming's Wind River Country, Yellowstone's unique neighbor. Visit us at windriver.org and follow Wyoming's Wind River Country on Facebook and Instagram. This podcast has been brought to you by the Wind River Visitors Council.